Today, we're talking about something pretty serious, an injury that can pop up during even the simplest surgery, and one that often flies under the radar until it's way too late. It's a story all about a single, vulnerable nerve, and how damaging it can literally change a person's life forever.
So picture this, right? You go in for something routine, like a biopsy on a swollen lymph node in your neck. You're expecting, what, some soreness, a small scar? But what if you woke up with a completely new, debilitating condition? Something that could mess with your job, your everyday life, and leave you in chronic pain. And here's the thing, this isn't some made-up what if. It's a very, very real risk.
All right, so let's get right into it. The risk we're zeroing in on here is an injury to this one super important nerve in your neck. And you might think, oh, that must be incredibly rare, but, well, the numbers might just surprise you.
Get this. One study looked at a super common procedure, biopsying a lymph node in the side of the neck, and it found that this specific nerve injury happened in up to 10% of cases. 10%. Just let that sink in for a second. That's a 1 in 10 shot of a major complication from an operation that's supposed to be routine.
And here's the really crucial part. This isn't something you're born with, and it's not a disease. It's what's known as an idiotrogic injury. It's a fancy-sounding word, but all it really means is that it's harm caused by medical treatment itself. Basically, it's an avoidable injury that happens during a procedure.
Okay, so to really get how this happens, we got to look at the anatomy. Let's call it the unfortunate star of our show, is a nerve called the spinal accessory nerve. You might see it called the SAN. And it is absolutely essential for moving your shoulders and your arms.
So, what's its job? Well, the SAN's main gig is to power the trapezius muscle. You know, that big, kite-shaped muscle in your upper back? If that nerve isn't working, that muscle doesn't work. And suddenly, everyday things, shrugging, picking up groceries, even just lifting your arm to wave hello, become a huge struggle. Or maybe even impossible.
So the big question is, why is this nerve so easy to injure? It's all about location, location, location. It runs straight through a spot in the neck called the posterior triangle. And guess what? That's exactly where surgeons are often working when they do these biopsies. The nerve is just right there, super close to the surface, smack in the middle of the action. It makes it tragically easy to nick or damage if a surgeon isn't being incredibly, incredibly careful.
You know, nothing drives us home like hearing about real people. The source material gives us 2 patient stories, and they show just how critical a quick diagnosis is. These 2 cases, they went down completely different roads.
And wow, look at this. It's like a tale of 2 completely different outcomes. On one side, you have a patient whose complaints of pain and weakness were just dismissed. They actually called it hysteria? Can you believe that? It took 3 years to figure out what was really wrong. By then, it was too late for surgery, and she was left with a permanent disability. But then you look at the other case. The weakness was spotted right away. He got sent to a specialist, had surgery to repair the nerve, and he got a lot of his function back. He could even go back to work. What was the game changer? Just one thing, getting diagnosed early.
So that just begs the question, right? If this injury is so bad, how on earth is it getting missed so often? Why are people's symptoms being ignored when it matters most? In those early stages, when you can actually do something about it? The thing is, the signs are pretty obvious if you know what to look for. We're talking about a nagging, deep pain in the shoulder, a feeling of heaviness. You can often see the shoulder physically drooping. Over time, that big trapezius muscle just starts to shrink, to waste away. But the biggest giveaway is not being able to lift your arm out to the side past about 90 degrees.
I mean, just look at this picture. See how uneven the shoulders are? That obvious droop on one side? That is the classic textbook sign that the trapezius muscle isn't working. It's not exactly subtle, is it? And yet somehow, it still gets missed right after surgery.
Okay, so here's the diagnostic trap. This is a big one. A doctor might say, hey, can you shrug your shoulders for me? And the patient can. But here's the catch. They're not using their trapezius. They're cheating, using other little muscles to do the job. And this gives the doctor and the patient this false sense of security. Like, oh, okay, everything's fine. But it's not. The main muscle is completely out of commission. And this one simple misunderstanding is a huge reason why these diagnoses get so delayed.
All right, so let's say someone finally suspects what's going on. Well, at that point, it is a race against the clock. I'm not kidding. There is a very, very small window of time to get in there and fix it for the best possible outcome.
Just how tight is that window? Well, the sweet spot, the best time for surgery, is within the first 3 months. Wait 6 months, and your chances of a good recovery start to plummet.
And if you wait 3 years, like in that story we talked about, well, by then, the muscle is often gone for good. There's nothing left to repair.
So what's the perfect scenario? What's the path to recovery? It's pretty straightforward. Step 1, the patient has to speak up right away about their symptoms. Step 2, the doctor has to actually listen and send them to a specialist. And step 3, that specialist can then do this really delicate surgery where they basically take a piece of nerve from somewhere else and use it to build a bridge over the damaged spot.
But you know, it's great that repairs are possible. It really is. But the biggest takeaway from all this research, the most important message, isn't about the cure. It's about prevention. It's about stopping this from ever happening at all.
And it really boils down to 3 main things. First, you need surgeons who are experienced, who know this area of the neck like the back of their hand. Second, and this is so important, we have to take patients seriously when they complain about pain or weakness after surgery. No dismissing it. And third, for the surgeons themselves, they have to make it an absolute priority to find that nerve and protect it during the operation.
The paper we're looking at really hammers this home with a powerful final thought. It says the emphasis should be placed on prevention to avoid such a disabling condition. At the end of the day, no matter how fancy the surgery is to fix it, nothing beats not getting injured in the first place. This is something that can be prevented.
And that really leaves us with a bigger question, doesn't it? One that's about more than just this one nerve. Now that we know about these diagnostic traps, now that we've seen how devastating the delays can be, what can we do? How do we make sure that when a patient speaks up after surgery, they're actually heard and believed? How do we make sure a real complaint of weakness is never, ever just brushed off as hysteria again? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me.